Hello and welcome to a cover story interview. I have with me Manish Tiwari, Congress Lok Sabha MP from Chandigarh and also a former union minister. But more importantly, he is from Punjab, a border state. At this time of conflict between India and Pakistan, his is one of the states that is affected. And plus, he is also a geostrategic expert. So, Manish, I welcome you to this conversation. And I want to begin with, I know you're in Chandigarh. Can you tell us a bit about what is happening over there? We are hearing there are day sirens.
Well, the situation in uh, any paradigm of this sort is always a little tense, but life is going on as normal. People are brave, they are resilient, they are signing up to be civil defense volunteers in very large numbers. And so, therefore, under those circumstances, yeah, people are going about their daily lives and they are doing their work as usual. And morale is high, spirits are high. There is a fervor in the air. So far, so good.
Good to know that you're also there on ground over there, Manish. But taking a look at the larger picture, it's been now nearly 3 days or 4 days, 4 nights ever since we launched Operation Sindoor. We're not calling it a war, but the conflict has escalated pretty much. Now missiles are being used. It's not just drones. Where do you see this heading, and how do you take into account? How would you describe India's actions?
Well, first and foremost, it has to be understood, as it has been underscored earlier also, that the initial escalation was that speech, or if I may call it rant, by General Asim Munir, where he dusted and dragged out of some dark closet the two nation theory, which had been debunked by the creation of Bangladesh in 1971. But be that as it may, that remains the only ideological justification for what remains of Pakistan, what used to be called West Pakistan earlier. That speech was a dog whistle. And subsequently, what happened in the Besran meadow of Pahalgam on the 22nd of April was a complete travesty. It was horrific and barbarous beyond words that people were identified by their faith and then they were executed. It was not as if they were mowed down in a burst from an automatic weapon. This was a cool, calculated, ruthless, cold hearted execution which was carried out of 26 innocent tourists that day in that meadow in Pahalgam. And subsequently, it was obvious that India would respond to this outrage. And what we did on the intervening night of the 6th and 7th of May, 2025, was completely consistent with our rights under public international law, Article 51 of the Charter of the United Nations, which gives every nation the right to respond in self defense and in order to protect and preserve its national sovereignty and integrity and national defense. India has been targeted by semi state actors who are trained, incubated, ideologically indoctrinated, resourced by Pakistan, now going back many decades. So, therefore, India's actions were absolutely consistent with the public international law and even the United Nations Charter. What Pakistan has done subsequently is that it is trying to brazen it out. And so, therefore, what you see happening over the last 3 days since the 7th of May is a continuous escalation by Pakistan, where the entire northwestern theater, from Leh all the way down to Gujarat, is completely live. So therefore, they've used drones, they've used missiles, and obviously India has responded in kind, punitively, to impose a cost on this misadventure and this unnecessary, unprovoked escalation. Pakistan should have introspected as to whether this network of semi-state actors that it has spawned, it's a country where the military has a nation rather than a nation having a military. That is it time to really sit back and think at the destruction of even Pakistani civil society, that this militarization, now going back to the days of the Afghan jihad, has done to Pakistan. But rather than do that, they have escalated. And obviously, we are in a tit for tat exchange where Air Force bases and other military installations in both the countries have been targeted. Fortunately, our aerial defense has been very robust. They have succeeded in neutralizing most of the attacks. And wherever certain assets have got through, which have been fired by Pakistan, the damage has been minimal. And yes, so therefore, India has the upper hand after the launch of Operation Sindoor as we speak currently.
But Manish, you know what Pakistan is saying? They are very good at putting out their own fake propaganda and false narratives. So when confronted with the fact that India was attacking terror-based infrastructure, they are saying, "What about India giving support to the BLA, the Balochistan Liberation Army?" They are saying you are also supporting terrorism, what they call terrorism, on our soil.
Well, this is an old allegation, which is again like that debunked two-nation theory, which they drag out of the closet every now and then to try and establish equivalence and parity with India. The fact is, there are elements in Balochistan who, going all the way back to 1947, when the Khanate of Kalat was integrated into Pakistan, have not accepted that accession. And that fight has been going on for 75 years to try and draw equivalence between that and what Pakistan has been doing. First in Punjab since 1980, then in Jammu and Kashmir 89 onwards, then in the rest of the country is completely egregious and erroneous, for the lack of a better word. There is absolutely no equivalence. Pakistan is a state which uses terror as an instrument of state policy. They are the same people who kept drawing aid from the United States of America and indulged in the most duplicitous behavior by giving shelter to Osama bin Laden. Ultimately, he was neutralized in Abbottabad. He was not neutralized in Allahabad. So therefore, Pakistan's credentials as a terror factory today require no elaboration, no recreation. It's something which is universally known. And what is unfortunate is that, notwithstanding all this, the International Monetary Fund has gone ahead and sanctioned another tranche of a loan to Pakistan. The IMF should have actually sat back and reflected as to whether the money that they give to Pakistan, and they've been giving millions and billions of dollars over the past 75 years, does it go to benefit the people of Pakistan, strengthen its civil infrastructure, or it goes towards strengthening this terror infrastructure which they have spawned? And the latter is correct. Pakistan has been misutilizing money now going back to 1979 onwards in order to create these semi-state proxies. And therefore, Pakistan should understand that there is a cost to the behavior that they have been exhibiting, and they will have to bear that cost.
You talked about the IMF. What do you make of the geopolitical reaction to, the hostilities? Let's start with United States, because I remember during Kargil War, it was Clinton who finally, intervened and the hostilities ceased. Do you expect some sort of an intervention, and how do you see the US reaction?
Well, first of all, India has never favored third-party mediation in the affairs of India and Pakistan. That was the cornerstone of the similar agreement, that it's a bilateral matter and it has to be resolved bilaterally. Having said that, there have been elements of international mediation in Kargil, like you mentioned, when Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif went to Washington, D.C., and was read
Yes.
out the Riot Act by President Clinton, to even 2019 during Balakot, there was intervention by the US officials, documented by them in their respective books, because they were in Hanoi at that point in time. Trump was having a summit with Kim Jong Un, the
North
dictator
Korea.
of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, as they call themselves. So, yes, there has been this history of people talking to both sides, trying to cool things down, trying to bring about a spectator of de escalation. But as I was earlier pointed out, in this particular instance, the first provocation and the first escalation was by Pakistan. The provocation was the dog whistle by General Asim Munir, and the trigger or the escalatory event was that outrage in Besra.
What about India's reaction? This is the first time that we have struck the Punjab province in Pakistan. How do you see India's reaction compared to earlier, to the Balakot strike or even the 2016 strikes?
Well, as I pointed out earlier, that India's actions are consistent with public international law. We've only exercised the right to defend ourselves because we were at the receiving end of, I won't even call it a proxy war, but a war being waged by semi-state actors who are based in Pakistan, who use the soil of Pakistan in order to carry out these dastardly acts. And if you were to rewind back to 2004, when Prime Minister Vajpayee had gone to Islamabad, he had done so on the explicit promise by the then President of Pakistan, General Pervez Musharraf, that Pakistani soil will not be allowed for anti-India activities. But of course, Pakistan reneged on it even before the visit was over. That is a different matter. But yes, so therefore, as I was earlier pointing out, that there is no equivalence between the actions of India and the subsequent actions of Pakistan.
Where do you see, Pakistan is, of course, in terms of narrative building, has India learned, say, from Balakot, when we announced the strike, but we didn't come up with visual proof? So there were people questioning the strike. Pakistan lent a narrative that we were targeting civilians. This time, when our briefing happens, they've come armed with proof and reasons as to why we targeted those certain 9 sites. Today, when they were talking about Pakistan targeting Indian air bases, we came with timestamps to show that, the bases haven't been targeted. How are you seeing India managing the narrative?
See, ultimately, narrative building and narrative management is a part of the larger conflict escalation dynamics. And under those circumstances, both the parties to a conflict, or if there are more than two parties to a conflict, they try and put out as much of their own narrative as possible. But the only way of keeping ahead of the curve in terms of ensuring that your narrative is credible and carries conviction with your people and the international community is to be as transparent about the facts as possible.
Which at least India is doing, at least, in terms of our daily briefing, which part of the daily briefing, Manish, is actually fact-checking Pakistan and, fact-checking the false narratives. I'm going to take a break and come back and talk a bit more about the geopolitical reaction. For instance, where do China and Russia stand in this? What can we expect from them after a quick break? Hello and welcome to our cover story conversation. We are talking to Manish Tiwari, Congress MP from Chandigarh, about the Operation Sindoor and its fallout and the ongoing escalation between India and Pakistan. Manish, how do you see, for instance, China's reaction? Because it is Chinese ammunition and Turkish ammunition and planes that are being used against us. What do you expect from China and Russia?
Well, let's not forget the fact that we've come off a protracted standoff with China. which started in the April-May of 2020, which escalated in the June of 2020 with the flash in the Galwan Valley, which was again unprecedented and horrific. From there onwards till the October, November of 2024, we have signed pish pash of disengagement agreements, which are in the process of being implemented. So we've gone through a very protracted phase of tensions with China, and China and Pakistan now have a relationship going back to the middle of the 1960s. And therefore, that relationship is strategic, it is economic, it is political, it is an all encompassing relationship. And that is where the China Pakistan paradigm is a constant that you need to be very careful about as you calibrate your strategy. With regard to Turkey, Turkey, after the ascent of President Erdogan, has been historically taking, and unfortunately so, a very anti India position, or if I may say, even a pro Pakistani position. And therefore, under those circumstances, they seem to have emerged as the principal frontline allies of Pakistan, knowing fully well that Pakistan is completely in the wrong. And what Pakistan has been doing is been indulging in extremely insidious behavior, for the lack of a better word. And rather than reining in their erratic ally, or the effect terrible that is there on India's northwestern border, they seem to be providing logistical support, which is unfortunate, and not really necessary.
Is Pakistan also making, advantage of its position, vis-a-vis the US, because the US also needs Pakistan for its war, against, in terms of, action in Afghanistan, even vis-a-vis China. Is Pakistan playing both sides, or how do you explain, for instance, the IMF loan and the US reaction to Pakistan?
Well, first and foremost, you had started with the United States of America, and we never got into that conversation. The United States is a distracted power today, right? So the United States has been going all guns blazing at their allies. For example, what has happened in Europe between the United States of America and their traditional allies going back to the Second World War. Is something which requires no retaliation at all. In addition to that, within the United States, the situation is absolutely chaotic with regard to the position which President Trump has taken with regard to alleged illegal migrants, or for that matter, even the attempts to try and streamline their government by using Mr. Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency. So the US is a completely distracted power. It is in the process of trying to unwind its international role and its international commitments going back all the way to 1945. But what the United States must realize that in global geopolitics, there is never a vacuum. And if the US decides to step back, there are other powers waiting to step in. Coupled with that, you've seen the recent summit between the president of Russia and the president of China. And Mr. Xi Jinping went to Moscow and was feted by President Putin at the Victory Day parade, when Nazi Germany had surrendered. Incidentally, it was the Soviet troops who first went into Berlin, because that was the agreement between the Allied powers that the Soviets would first be allowed to take Berlin out of the Allies. So, therefore, you have a very curious global churn in play. The Middle East, in any case, has been disturbed since the October of 2023. And now the added ingredient in this equation is the tensions between India and Pakistan. And frankly, since the India Pakistan dispute now goes back to 1947, the world is also fairly, if I may say, tired of this constant state of hostilities between India and Pakistan. And that is why you have not really seen anybody proactively trying to step in and asking Pakistan to dial back on its recalcitrance and its irrationally exuberant behavior, which is going to be counterproductive. And pretty much over the last couple of days since Operation Sindoor has started, India and Pakistan have been left to their own, uh, their own devices to try and manage this escalation. And undoubtedly, the situation is escalatory as we currently speak.
In fact, one of the things that the foreign secretary in his briefing always underlines is the fact, the unity, the fact Pakistan tried to divide us on communal lines when even, as you mentioned earlier, the targeting was towards, the Hindus, tourists were targeted. So they were trying, and I remember a conversation with you where you said that religion does not unite Pakistan either. If you can, go back into that.
Well, in the sense, the ISI has been playing this game for the last 45 years. They have been trying to create a communal divide in India. They tried that in Punjab for 15 years. They tried that in Jammu and Kashmir, or they've tried that in Jammu and Kashmir ever since. And they've always been defeated. They've always been repudiated. And therefore, Pakistan's ideological justification of being a state based on religion is itself belied by the fact that, look, what is the condition of the Shias in Pakistan? What is the condition of the other Muslim minorities, be it the Ahmadiyas, be it the Khojas, be it the other smaller Islamic sect groups? In addition to that, of course, there are geopolitical contradictions. Balochistan, Sindh, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the Afghans have never recognized the Durand Line, even though Pakistan tried to put two proxy regimes, Taliban 1 and 2, out there. But both of them, including the regime which was there from 2001 to 2021, none of them have ever accepted the Durand Line. So, therefore, if you look at it in civilizational terms and if you take a long view, the natural boundaries of the Indian subcontinent used to be till the east of Indus. And then you had larger Pakhtunistan. So, therefore, this British imperial project of trying to have a foothold in northwest India, because the second iteration of the Great Game was supposed to commence in 1940, had Nazi Germany not invaded the Soviet Union with Operation Barbarossa in the July of 1941, 7th July 1941, if I'm not mistaken. So under those circumstances, this artificial construct, which was put into place for purely strategic reasons, has not been able to find the rationale of its existence. So the idea of Pakistan has always been a very fluid, a very tenuous idea. And that's why, in order to try and find that ideological basis for their existence, Pakistan has started leaning on religion, which also divides it more than it unites it. And then on the use of semi-state proxies to try and create tension in the region in the hope that that will coalesce their nation together.
Divide on religion is taking another turn this time also. It was not just Hindu Muslim. They're also trying to divide Hindu Sikh. We are hearing this narrative that India is trying to, target Gurdwaras. Pakistan trying to target our Gurdwara in the Rajouri Poonch area was hit. Do you get that feeling also?
Well, they've been doing this, as I said, from 1980 onwards. What was the Khalistan militancy? The Khalistan militancy was again resourced and sponsored by Pakistan. You know, even during those days, there was a
Hmm.
very, very active attempt to try and create a divide in the community. But the Pakistanis never understood that between the Hindus and Sikhs in Punjab, there is the no mas ka saath, the relationship between the flesh and the nails. So therefore, that is absolutely inseparable. So they have been playing this game ever since their own malefic existence, and they have not succeeded in the past 75 years. They will not succeed now.
And thank you so much, Manish Tiwari, speaking to us from Chandigarh, in fact, about what is happening. We're going to keep an eye on this. But for now, thank you so much, Manish.
Thank you. Thank you, Priya. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.